Okay, well, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you a bit about a tour we did in 2019. My wife actually went with me. We didn't, I didn't originally realise that I was going to be able to have a bird tour because what we signed up for was an Antarctic trip out of South America on a cruise ship, which was just really a big pelagic. And I found that at the end you could actually delay your flights to fly home. And we were going to Machu Picchu, and I thought, oh, that's too good to let that one go. So I found Manu Expeditions, and we booked the tour, and Marie had no idea what she was getting herself into. And that was her first and last birding tour. But it was good fun. So let me just move down. So, yeah, okay. So this is a summary of 2 weeks of Antarctica. So just to let you know, we actually did go there first. It was a fantastic trip and I got a whole lot of bird shots. But the reason I wanted to show you this is because of the next slide. So where you saw me on the deck or on our balcony with my camera on the tripod, well, I set it up and I walked inside one of the days, and 20 seconds later, I hear this almighty bang. And it was that loud that the people next door yelled out, "Are you okay?" And when I went out, here's my camera with the $10,000 lens that I'd rented on the end of it, laying on the ground. And it in fact had ripped out the front of my 7D, which was pretty devastating, not because of the photos that would be associated with Antarctica, but because this occurred before the bird trip. And I was pretty upset. And Marie said, how about I go upstairs for a couple of hours and you figure out what you're going to do. Well, I was fortunate. I had my old 70D and the lens itself wasn't damaged. But the 2 times extender was, and I don't know whether you can see, but just at the top, that bit of metal at the top is meant to be flat. Now that's stainless steel and it's bent at about 2 or 3 mil. So that's how hard it's hit. But the good thing was it damaged the extender and not the 2.8 300 mil lens. And I did have a 1.4 extender still. So it wasn't a disaster in the sense that I couldn't take any more photos and the rental lens was still okay. So I was happy. So just at the end of the trip, the Antarctic side of the trip, so the cruise trip, we landed into Chile and we just did the classic touristy sort of thingos. And yeah, it was just a place. I thought it was just a place. Murray was quite happy to go around and look at things. And then we went on the road to go to Santiago. Now, I need to warn you that if you have sensitive ears to the way words are pronounced, correctly or incorrectly, then you're in for a bit of a thrill because I'm an engineer. So it's just tough. So finally, the exciting part, which was we jumped into the plane and we set off for Cusco. And Cusco is about 3,400 meters. Kosciuszko is 2,200 or so. So it's a fair bit of difference. And I've been to the top of Kosciuszko, but we landed and I walked 5 meters and I thought a truck had hit me. I felt like I was reasonably fit, you know, like, you know, we were doing a lot of birding and a lot of walking and everything. for months and months before the trip, but it just hit like a brick wall. Couldn't believe it. And it only got better 2 days later when we started to go down towards the Amazon Valley, when we got down low enough. But I was really amazed, and I was breathless after a few meters of walking. You'd have to stop, get your breath, and then walk a bit more. And the lady wanted to take us on a city tour, walking tour. We didn't go very far. So some of the terrific people that were there, amazingly short. They're just that sort of up so high. It was just amazing. But it was just a beautiful culture to be in. And the people were just fantastic. The desserts were fantastic, which is my favourite part of any meal. And it was just great. 2 days in Cusco, we then, as part of our trip, went to the Sacred Valley and to Machu Picchu, which was an optional 5-day tour. And that was just amazing. And just to travel and to see the rivers looked like close to flood, but they were just torrents, and to be on this old train winding through the mountains was just fantastic. And I was hanging out the window, taking photos of the glaciers and everything. It was just brilliant. And we weren't really ready. You've seen pictures but to actually be at this place was just amazing. So, and you will know if you've been there, it's just breathtaking. And just to think how these guys, so many thousands of years ago, actually built this in the middle of the mountains. It was just incredible. There was a village there, which I didn't realise, which is where we stayed 2 nights. And it was culture. Yeah, we just loved it. It was just brilliant talking to the people. This was impressive, guinea pig on a stick. We went through this town and the bus stopped at the lights, and this girl came running out with the guinea pig on a stick. And I looked at Maria, because when we raised our grandkids, we actually raised guinea pigs. I never thought to skewer them. Apparently you can. Okay, so here's the important part of the trip. So we're here at Cusco. Mouse, yep. We're here at Cusco. And here is Atalaya, which is on the river, which we would go down by boat and go into the lodges to stay for the birding trip. Now that's about a bit under 3,000 metres drop in a reasonably, it was less than a day that we did it. We were very thankful because we'd only just started to drop and the altitude sickness just disappeared. So that was really, really good. So we basically headed down this road, and then the river is, in short, Mary's River, because it's the Mother of the Lord River in translation. So Mary's River covers it for me. So that was our tour. Now, we had a personal chef. There was only the 2 of us on this birding tour, Maria and I. Made it a little bit more expensive, but if you've ever been there and you have some idea of the mountain roads, we were in a Toyota Hi-Ace, wasn't 4-wheel drive. The roads are barely Hi-Ace wide. We went under and through waterfalls, like the waterfall coming over the car. They put little rocks at the side of the road to tell you that if you hit the rock, the chances are you cause a landslide and you're going to go down with it. And it was just amazing. And this guy's just belting down this road, and Marie's like got her eyes closed, and my hands are going white. She's holding me that tight. But it was brilliant. I was just having a ball. But anyway, this guy cooked every meal for us for the 6 days that were on the trip. So I never got his name, and so we just called him Cook, as you do if you're an Australian. So most of us would have heard of the Amazonia cloud forest, and just to be up the top and to look down and just to look down thousands of meters, and that's literally what you could do, and just see this cloud forest was fantastic. My first bird right at the top was an Andean flicker. So I have a lot of slides. So when you see a bird slide, I think most of you can read. So if I get a series of bird slides, I'm just going to go through them pretty quickly. Because if you ask a question, you will know that I know less than you about Peruvian birds. But I had a fantastic guide, Alfredo, who was he'd been to uni, so he was an ornithologist. He was a botanist. He studied reptiles, and he'd done one other thing as well. So he was unbelievable. And I reckon they were probably paying him nothing, like hardly anything. But he was brilliant. He'd point out the plants and tell you what they were. The birds, he just knew them. And if he didn't, he'd pull out his app with 800 Peru birds on it, flick through and go, yep, that's the one. It was just phenomenal. So he was brilliant, and he really did make the trip. Amazing. Broad-winged hawk. This was actually, I could barely see in the mist right at the top. And so it took a little bit of work to get a picture out of the hawk. As we went down the descent, as you would realise, if you're travelling down just a few hours and dropping 3,000 metres, then most things are vertical, wherever you look up or look down. So there was a lot of this. So these fantastic birds at every layer, at every level, as you went down through the cloud forest. There are pictures of plants. One thing you whip snip if it's in your garden. Yeah. And there's the phenomenal birds. The tanager family is just amazing. Just fantastic birds, and the pictures don't do them justice. Oh yeah, there's flowers.
Oh.
And hummingbirds. Now, I thought a hummingbird was a hummingbird, but a hummingbird isn't just a hummingbird. So this, to me, is a sparkling hummingbird because when it flies, it stops in midair and you can't see the wings beating, and that's a hummingbird. But these are just fantastic. These quetzals were just beautiful in the forest. So this is going down this 3,000 metres.
Look at some.
Flycatchers, more waterfalls, beautiful waterfalls. I'm going too fast, sorry.
All nightjar.
Yep, nightjars. This was on this one thatched house in the middle of, tucked in this little hill, in the middle of nowhere. And the guy stops and says, there's a nightjar sitting on the thatch, out with the camera. Take the picture. So just phenomenal. Yeah, it's just amazing. This was this was the #1 must-see bird. And the bird is a stupid looking bird. It's not right. Like,
what is a beak?
Beak is not a beak, and the eyes are stuck in the middle of this red pillow. And it's a phenomenal bird. Well, to get this photo, I had to stand on the edge because Wilfredo heard the bird call. I had to stand on the edge of the road. The road went straight down for hundreds and hundreds of metres. I stood up on this rock. The cook held me by the belt. I leaned over to take the photo, and I could just get the top half of the bird. in the photos. So I'm hanging over and looking down thinking, no, you probably shouldn't look down. Just look at the bird, look at the bird. And so I did manage to get some nice photos of this bird. And that was who puts a bow on the back of a bird? Just an amazing design of a bird. Just incredible. So yeah, that was brilliant. That was in the first 2 hours going down. So I was done. Like, it didn't matter what else happened, except for the broken camera. But other than that, you know, I got the number one bird. I was going for it after that. So these monkeys came to the car. So they were in the trees just bouncing around like crazy. Well, I think they're a monkey, whatever a capuchin is. It's a thing that looks like a monkey and hangs off trees. So, yep. So this is her not at home, not happy Jan. Yep. So, yeah. Yeah. So, speckled chakalakas. I think I mostly got that one right. I got speckled right. Just running across the road at, I don't know how many thousand metres high, but thing just turned up and just was going across the road like our lyrebirds, I guess, type idea. My first macaw. Now, macaws, most of you will know I'm a bird breeder, so macaws are my favourite breed of birds, and which is why I wanted to go to South America. But yeah, to see the macaws in the wild is just amazing, and I was in second heaven with those woodpeckers. I didn't know they really had woodpeckers in. I didn't imagine they were in South America, but apparently they are, and there's lots and lots of them. Little woodpeckers, I thought they were in like the dry land, really dry places, but apparently not. Flycatchers again, yellow-browed sparrows. So a long way to go and take a picture of a sparrow. I don't know how you pronounce it, Elanias. Again, tanagers again. These were a bit hard because you were looking down and you could see the birds. They were like a beacon. But as soon as you put the camera on them, everything around them was so bright, it was really hard to actually get the true colour of the bird. Squirrel cuckoos, they're an amazing bird. When we got down to what was basically the bottom of the 3,000 metre drop, was our first lodge, and it was at 650 metres. So 3,400 down to 650. So Marie was very happy that we actually made it alive. I was still excited. That's Wilfredo there, and that's the idiot with the camera, with the old camera on there, but the lens worked. It was great. There was more flowers, so is that okay, Anne? Got the flowers? And these sapphires, they had feeders out with for the honey eaters, for the sapphires, and these birds just amazing, you know, just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful birds. So I was going around photographing everything in sight. I just wanted to stop and sit and look and watch, but Marie kept saying, no, come on, let's move along, move along. But just the different colours were terrific. And there's this humongous giant black bee. So I thought I'd have to take a photo of it as well. Yeah, it's just great. It's just lucky I had the good lens still, but the little 70D worked a charm. It worked well. Yeah, so more, whatever that is. Some more roads. That's lots of hawks, trogons, just terrific birds. And so this village, apparently, so it's Pilkapata, which is almost at the river, next up from Adelaide, which you'll see in a minute. So it's legal to grow cocaine plants here. Coca plant, yeah. And so Marie got to taste the leaf. She didn't know much of the trip for her days, yeah. No, and yeah, it was bizarre, really, because they've got this leaves laid out for acres of them, at the houses, all the houses, and apparently they're allowed to. They're a very happy people. So, and yeah, they're very smiling a lot, although, yeah. See these guys up in the top right corner with the machine guns? We saw that first. We're thinking, there's this little village, it's got nothing. Why are there guys walking around with machine guns? Then we asked the guy what all the plans were, and then we found out. But as you'd imagine, somebody's making a lot of money, and it's not the local people, because this is their houses. This is what they're living in. And one of the old bridges in the rivers had a lot of water, which was just brilliant. I think that's called a butterfly. Yep. Turkey vultures, which you all have heard of, and yes, they are but ugly. Okay, so we arrived at Port Atalaya, which is about 500 metres on the Madre de Dios River. Bizarre. And this was the start of our boat trip. Well, I'm just unhappy I missed the photo of Marie's face when she first saw the boat. That was pretty priceless. But I wasn't going to really look at her until she got on the boat. But the guys were really, really good, and they helped us on. And we got to the first lodge. So this is my view. It's tough, but you've got to take it as it comes. So sitting on the chair, lens resting on the ledge. I'll show you the photos in a sec. So that's my view. And this is Marie's view. She just put her feet up, and I said, well, you're going to get a good rest for the next couple of days, because you basically mostly stayed there, but not quite. So they put bananas out and all sorts of things to bring the tannages in. So they're, 5 metres away. Just wonderful opportunities, and the birds are just flying in and out, and you've got these beautiful colours just coming out, and you're in a grassed area that wouldn't be probably half an acre max, and the rest is just the jungle around you. So the birds just fly out of the jungle from anywhere. That was a tanager's nest in a plant a metre from the veranda, and the tanager would come in and sit, and took a photo when it was out. That was one of the local spiders. There's one in the bedroom, which Marie wasn't all that excited about. This was probably the most contrasted. It's very hard to get a better contrast than red and black on a bird. It just makes a beautiful contrast. So these birds, the hard part was trying to photograph the bird and get the colour in perspective, because the colour was just so bright. So I had a lot of these photos, so you might see a few.
Oh, that's cute.
These Woodsons, which are just great birds, just fantastic birds. And wasp-hide, that was about 3 metres from the veranda, which Marie wasn't overly excited about either. And then there's a nest. I don't know what sort of nest it was right next to it, so I don't know whether they gave it protection. Then they had 2 trips out to the clay licks. Unfortunately, both days it was bucketing down. So we got to go, but the photography was terrible, and a lot of the birds didn't come it didn't come down, which was a little disappointing, but hey, it was better than seeing no birds at all. So the photos are a little bit distant, but I got reasonable views. But where we landed in the middle of the river, and then we sort of got a little boat that went across a little bit of slow moving water to go to the clay leg. There was a great leg, yellow leg sitting in 5 metres from the boat. So fair enough, I'll take a photo of you. Chestnut fronted macaws flying over by the dozens, dusky headeds, and the guys flying into the lake, and it was just brilliant. I sat there with my mouth open. It was just brilliant, just loved it. The roseate spoonbill, really, yeah, I was pretty happy to take a few photos of it, just fantastic. Same spot, it was just like 50 metres down the river.
Oh,
Burrowing owl was on like an island in the centre of the river. So Wilfredo knew about it, so obviously a known spot. Blue-headed parrots, tanagers were around, and yeah, and the birds just kept coming. So there was this is back at the lodge, and about 5 minutes walk, they put up a 15-metre platform to get above the bottom part of the canopy, or sit at the top of the canopy. So then you could see all the birds that were flying in and out of the canopy. And, 10 metres away, there was this pair just, sitting there doing whatever they were doing, looking at each other. And these black-capped squirrel monkeys were just fighting and chasing each other all around in the canopy. I had a bit of trouble actually. They're a little bit blurry because the guys just wouldn't sit still. They were ADHD. A bit like me, really. White-eyed parakeets, ruddy pigeons. Again, the tanagers were all there. And this was the front photo, the violaceous jay. Fantastic bird. I just looked at this bird and thought, you couldn't hope to see a more beautiful bird than this guy, and the picture just doesn't do him justice. It's just the violet colour was just amazing.
violet, it looks
Monkeys.
blue.
Monkeys. And then the jacamars, which just look like a hummingbird with their beak straightened. But yeah, really beautiful birds as well. The colours, when the sun gets on these birds, it's just like having a rainbow. Like just seeing like the green part of the rainbow or the red yellow part of the rainbow on the bird. Just fantastic. Chakalakas again. We're back on the boat. I think we're on our way home, which might be why Marie smiled. It was like about a 14-hour journey. We were meant to go further down and finish, but a landslide had closed the main highway. So we had to come back up against the river, which was mostly in flood, to get back. So the 6-hour journey down was 40 hours back up. But we had a ball, and I was photographing birds out of the boat on the way all the time. If I saw a bird, I'd just yell out, put my hand up. The driver would just go over to the edge. He just make the boat idle in the water against the river. I take the photos, thumbs up, off we go again. It was just fantastic. And there was these guys, just sitting on the side of the river, capybara, hiding. I didn't see this, but Wilfredo did. So we stopped sort of in the middle of the river and yeah, egrets and the black-capped heron, capped heron as they call it. Spoonbills in flight, just beautiful, just flying across the river. These are all taken from the boat as we're going up the river. Yeah, it's just brilliant. In the middle of the river is this, there's a lot of these little stony islands where the river's obviously gone around, and there was hundreds of these sand-coloured nighthawks just on the, obviously totally protected from everybody, just all sitting in this patch on the middle of the river. It was just brilliant. So we just stopped there in the middle of the river and I took photos. And there was, you know, every time I saw macaws or whatever, yeah, put my hand up, we'd stop, take photos. Well, I actually have a pair of blue and yellow macaws, and they're just brilliant. So to see them in the wild was just fantastic. And there was martins, and this was a lodge that we stayed at on the way. And it was, I think it was meant basically the tapir lodge, where if you wanted to see tapirs, you went to. So we saw a few guys, that's why Wilfredo was good. He named the lizards for me, and here's the lodge tapir. So sitting at the lodge, right? So Marie's taken this with her camera. I was too close, I couldn't focus. The big lens on the thing was too big in the lens to get the photograph. And she's taking this on the phone. Unbelievable. So what I did was I said, make sure your foot's in the photo so like everyone can see how close this thing is. So it's almost chewing the toenails. And yes, that's her foot, not mine, with no polish on it. Yep. Yeah. Believe that, you believe anything. Scarlet macaws are just fantastic in the wild. They're just the rainbow macaw. Just beautiful. And I was surprised by some of the colour in the woodpeckers. It was just amazing. Blue and gold macaws, blue and yellow macaws as they call them. These birds were quite a ways away, so it was just good that I had the long lens on, so at least I could get some reasonable quality photos. Yellow-tufted woodpecker, and some of the pictures that are a little bit further away. Yellow-crowned, we call it yellow-crowned Amazon in Australia. They're reasonably common in aviculture in Australia. This guy's pretty ugly. I think he ran into a bus at the Hyde, beat his beak. But there was a clay lick hide, another one we went to, which was a platform. So they built this platform sort of above the water that looked across to the lick as like a hide. But it was two platforms at least 10 metres square. So they're pretty big to take, I guess, you know, a boat full of people. And again, unfortunately, it was pouring rain, but I did manage to get some really nice photos. Don't know why that's called magpie tanager. Chewy parakeets, they're the little guys, really, really nice. Piscades, they were pretty good. Flycatchers. Red-capped cardinal, I gotta admit, was a pretty flash bird. Sitting in the rain, just the rain and just made it looked really, really nice. And there was scarlet macaws going over. The birds were there, but they didn't come down to the lick, basically. So I managed to get flight shots and shots of the birds up in the trees, but I wasn't able to get them too close. This Amazon kingfisher, unfortunately, I didn't quite get the exposure right on this guy because he was pretty stunning as well. Mealy parrots, there are a few of those in Australia. Small mealies. So I went off a bit on photographing the parrots, I've got to admit, except for this duck. But yeah, it was a muscular V duck. I thought, well, probably the first one I've seen actually. So I photographed it. Yep. I couldn't find the male, could only find the female. None birds, more mealies, and more parrots at the little headed parrot. This guy just got in a spot where I got some really good light, and I turned the colour up a little bit, probably a little bit too much, but hey, looked pretty good to me, so that's how it is. So the birds were, yeah, they were up in the foliage and got some okay shots. This was my first Arikari. This guy would have been at least 80 metres away. You can see the rain. It looked like it was about, an inch high, but lucky again, lucky I had the 450mm lens on. I was able to just pull in enough to get a fair picture of these guys. They're pretty amazing birds. More chewies. We call these green macaws. They're red and green macaws in these guys. So a whole pile of those around. More chewies and more red and greens. And I'll just whiz through these a little bit. Some more Arikaris. Red and green macaws. And more woodpeckers. We went on this lake. And 3 to 4 metre caiman was like 10 metres away. And they said, oh, look at the size of that. And I said, oh, you see nothing. Our babies are that big. They're born out of the egg that big. You don't know what a decent reptile is. So, but they had this rufescent tiger heron. It was beautiful. In the sun, it was just magic. Yeah, just wonderful. Back at the lodge, and this taper just turned up again. Wouldn't get out of the way. And this is the start of the 14-hour trip. So the other one must have been Marie must have gone back in the boat again. I'm surprised. Anyway, so we started off, and the nightjars were there, and then we began to get. This is on the way back up the river. So all these are photos taken off the side of the boat again. So yeah, that is a large building. Yeah. And this, I was pretty happy to get this shot of the skimmer. I was busting for him to go and have a skim, but he didn't. But just to get the shot, again, it was just one of those, it was like having a sandbar in the middle of this raging river, and you get these sandbars just stuck out. And yeah, there was a black skimmer on there. They call that a pied lapwing. Snowy egrets, Orinoco goose. And these black caracaras are like whatever our most common birds are. They're everywhere, absolutely everywhere. Spoonbills again, so I was pretty happy to see a small group of those. Turkey vultures, only a face and other good luck. Another fasciated tiger heron on the side. White-winged swallows, there was piles of them. Roadside hawks, capped herons again, all on the side of the road. And this was my last macaw that I saw at Chestnut Front. And then we're back at Adelaide Port. Marie, I've never seen her so excited to get off the boat, except she didn't realise that we had to go back up the same way we came down. This is one of their just it's just mind-boggling the way they stuff people into vehicles in these places. Oh yeah, butterfly. So on the way back, we did see a few birds. I was going to say this was an outhouse, but actually this was a house, somebody's house in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, just stopped because Wilfredo spotted a bird that was about 200 metres away. I'm trying to get a shot of it. Just one of the shots on the way past one of the hills. The stalls, it was festival time. You wouldn't believe it. We arrived there on the weekend that the annual festival was on. How do you pick that? Yeah, no, it's an annual one. And the way they decked out and put the things on, I can see why it's only an annual one. It was massive. Just broke me up. So we're driving around this old Copa part or whatever on the road back to Cusco. And this road down the end went straight into this road. And I'm thinking, in Australia, this would be the bypass. But no, one road just, so I'm assuming the local, politician lived on this road. The rest of them lived on the other. Trogans, is that Amazon kingfish again. More waterfalls. Swallowtail kite was pretty nice. Yeah, he is flying around a field that we stopped at, and according to I'd say a locust, but I don't know what, some sort of insect like that. And there was these guys still everywhere. A lot of these ant wrens and they don't come up above from the ground very often, so I was lucky to get a few shots. Black phobia, some sort of orchid, I think. Purple thing. More of the tanagers. There's the Cock of the Rock Lodge. The reason I put this in, this is about, I think it's about 1,500 metres or so. And we actually stopped here because there was nobody there because it was the off season. Oh, we went in the rainy season, by the way. It was cheap. No, it's actually when the cruise was and you just sucked it up. That's how it was. But there was nobody there. So Wilfredo said, oh, no worries, we can just go in. So we went into the lodge, sat down on the veranda, watched the birds come into the feeders and took the photos off the feeders. So these birds just kept coming into all these feeders and it was just, it was brilliant. It's what it was. And these guys were all just taken from the veranda and they were 4 or 5 metres away. Just wonderful. And this was the drug random checkpoint. This was the widest part of the road on the way back up the mountain. This guy came out. I don't know whether there was money that exchanged hands, but we saw a few suspicious cars going up and down the mountain thinking, And so he stopped it, looked at the car, got to lift the back up, put the backpack down, and we took off again. That was their checkpoint. I don't know what these people here were doing. Like it's halfway up the hill and there's nothing there except this one house. And then there's the annual festival. So the colour was unbelievable. And this is the end. And it was just fantastic. And there was thousands of people involved in the festival, like from the whole area. And that's the end. Thank you.
I'll open up to questions from Zoom first. If anyone's got any questions for Bruce, then yeah, we'll take ones from Zoom first, and then we'll switch to the floor here, and I'll have the microphone working so we can have people at home hear what's going on. So either unmute yourself and shout out, or do the wave hand thing.
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello?
Yep.
I was just curious to see that the same birds in Peru were found all the way up the coast to Canada, or the tanagers and the phoebes and so on. It's quite amazing that they've got such a range. That was my comment. I mean, the local birds are really fantastic, but to see the same things, as I say, which you can see all the way up the coast, quite interesting.
Had no idea. Yes, I believe it.
Oh, okay. Oh, all the woodpeckers, the phoebes, the tanagers, and there were a couple of others I've seen all the way up the coast. So it's one of those things.
Cool.
That's
Might
all.
have been a cheaper trip.
No one
Any
else?
more questions? So home. Yeah, any more questions from home on Zoom? Chat.
Yeah. That's right. So any of those birds you see in Canada are migratory ones, I think. So.
Yeah, that's a bit of a surprise, really.
Yeah, it's not like,
I didn't hear that.
it's only like one species of each.
Mm.
One hundred, yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
Something like diversity.
No.
No more questions from home. No more questions here then, because I can.
Bruce, what river were you on, Bruce? Was it the Amazon or a tributary?
It was one of the main rivers into the Amazon system. Yeah, the Amazon system is like huge. Yeah, it's in the, they call it the Amazonian jungle. It's massive and goes across multiple countries. And this was just the Peru part of it. But the river was always big. It's only a tributary. It was big.
Stick your hand up and away if you've got questions while I'm trying to rush over.
No
So
questions.
just out of interest, if
If you bring back the jay, it's just out of interest. That's actually a corvid, like our ravens and crows. If you yeah, I was going to say if you just pop in.
Yeah, mate, I'll jump in. We have to share screen.
Yeah, that was,
For those of us that are here.
so
That fella.
it's a cool.
it is a corvid, yeah. I didn't realise. I didn't know what a jay. I'd only heard of jays in the US. So I was surprised to find that sort of bird down
That was just asking what the tally was, Bruce.
there. I have no idea. I have no idea. I'm an Australian tally person, not an overseas tally person. So I was too busy enjoying to tally up. It'd be a few, but actually, I think it might have been about 107 or something.
Did you get to see?
Did you get to see an Andean condor? Because they would be up.
Yeah, yes, we did, but that was down on the Antarctic part of the trip. It was Ushuaia, yeah. We saw 3 times, saw the condors, but like the condor should be, but it
Like seeing just a plane, really.
was. I got an okay photo, but it was a long way away. Yeah.
I want to know, Bruce, how much shorter would the 40-hour boat trip have been if you didn't keep stopping to photograph birds?
Well, it's funny you should say that because I said to Maureen, it was a 16-hour boat trip.
No, just
And she said, no, the boat trip was only 12 hours or 13 hours. I thought, no, I won't argue this point. There probably was 16 hours because I stopped. And it was funny actually because we were halfway up and there was a bloke standing in the water with another boat with 2 American tourists sitting in the back. And our boat guy yells out and says, "You okay?" Said, "No, I could do with a bit of help." And the guy says, "Well, I hope you find some." Kept going. So I guess it's every man for himself. In other words, you got the money for the trip, you figure it out.
And was that boat trip like non-stop, that 16 hours or whatever it was?
Yes.
And so was part of that in the dark?
No, it wasn't. There was, actually there was one toilet stop. Because there was only one place where you could have a toilet stop, one town. But no, we left it like dawn, first light. Actually, no, I think we left just before first light and we arrived late, yeah, because we travelled home during the night. We travelled back to Cusco during the night.
Was that back up that road then
Same road.
at night? Was that not scary?
No, it was the later part was night. Oh no, even I would have been worried. But he was a bit slower going up than he was coming down. Till he drove right through the waterfall. And it came straight down the top of the car. It's a different life.
Any more questions?
I don't. Thank you.